Father, are you sure you can beat him?
Of course, my son. With the power this Afro has bestowed upon me, I will win.
Can you hurry it up? Damn baboons.
I'll be back soon.
Time to send Donkey Kong back to the jungle.
For my people, for my son, Wakanda for...
Well. If it isn't another fatherless, no good, nappy-headed
Hey man, it's your boy Alex, and welcome back to another bang. Today, we are talking about one of the coldest black anime characters I've ever seen. Close, but no. No. Almost, I think. Ooh. Haha. No. Ah, here we are. Finally. Afro Samurai. And considering this show only has 5 episodes, we'll be talking about all 5 of them. So if you haven't seen this series, spoiler warnings ahead. And without further ado, it's time to get unhinged. Alright, so before we get started, let me give you some brief lore in the world of Afro Samurai. So there are 2 headbands, headband number 1 and headband number 2. And if you have headband number 1, you are considered a god. And the only person that can challenge you is whoever has headband number 2. And if you have headband number 2, anybody can run a fade with you. And it doesn't even have to be one-on-ones. These niggas could jump you if they wanted to.
We do not care.
And when Afro was a child, his father held the number 1 headband. Until this walking ball sack walks his wrinkly ass up a mountain and kills him for it. And after a young Afro witnesses this, he vows to go on a path of vengeance. And now that we have the backstory out the way, let's get back to the show. So back in present day, an adult Afro has now donned the number 2 headband, and he seemed to have found a travel companion, sort of. Meet Ninja, a figment of Afro's imagination, who comes and goes as he pleases, but tends to help out Afro from time to time. And as they're walking through this mountain pass, Ninja notices that they're being followed. And he warns Afro that this man looks very dangerous and they should probably keep it pushing. And any sane individual will probably listen to his advice. But Afro stops in his tracks, turns around, and squares up immediately. And if you thought this was going to be a sword fight, you would be wrong. Because his opponent pulls out a crossbow with a grenade launcher attachment on it. Oh, great heavens! And I've never seen someone so unamused before in my life. But before you can blink, Buddy starts spamming RT. And Afro blocks every single one of them with a sword as he proceeds to run straight towards him while simultaneously dodging every single arrow. And you can tell Buddy was shitting bricks because he started shooting grenades at point blank range, which made Afro have to climb up the side of the mountain to avoid getting his limbs blown off. But one grenade got a little too close for comfort.
You deserve it, Daddy.
And just when you thought Afro got his back blown in by a Diddy missile, he leaps out the smoke, dodges arrows mid-air, and turns Buddy into a shish kebab while standing on his weapon.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
I don't care what nobody else says. This man deserves more glaze than Duke Dennis.
This bitch is hating on me. What the fuck?
So after his fight, Afro begins to walk away when he suddenly stops and collapses to the ground. And that's when Ninja realizes he probably got hit with a poison arrow during his fight. And to make things worse, we realized we weren't the only ones watching that fight, because watching from above was the Crimson Chin, the nigga chin, and this long peanut head looking at dude. And the Crimson Chin wasted no time. He pulled up on Afro and put out an RPG out of his and with a grand total of 0 words exchanged, he shoots at Afro, who turns around and cuts the missile in half, which ends up blowing up and blasting this man off the side of a mountain. The next time we see Afro, he's badly injured from the explosion, but now he's bandaged up thanks to the person who found him. Meet Okiku. Now she's been taking care of Afro while he's recovering, and during his recovery, we get a series of flashbacks from Afro's childhood, starting around sometime after Afro's father's death, as he's getting chased by bandits who want that number 2 headband. And they beat the brakes off my boy. So they snatch the headband off of him, and then find his father's decomposed head in a bag that he was carrying around.
Huh? Yo ho ho ho, yo ho ho.
And they snatched that too. But they eventually give it back to him, only to put a pole through it and send Afro backflipping into a shrine. But luckily for him, he was eventually found by 2 kids, Gino and Otsuru. Now the 2 of them take Afro back to some type of dojo orphanage where they live and train with other kids under their master. And during this time, Afro is still searching for whoever has the number 2 headband, like Buddy is dead ass fiending.
Give it to me! thing! Give it to me! Give it to me! Give it to me! Just give it!
Because one day he was trying to sell some fish with Okiku and Jean when he overheard some dude talking about the headband. So he tracks this man down, interrupts him in the middle of clapping some cheeks, and takes his head off because he wouldn't tell him where the headband is.
Stop it. Get some help.
Now we go back to present day, where Afro is still recovering, but it's not as peaceful as it seems because the ops have the low. So this guy's been sent to spy on Afro, as he's been relaying information to the evil villain headquarters. But I guess they don't teach him how to whisper in ninja school, because he's talking loud as shit.
He's right behind me, isn't he?
So later that evening, Afro is training in the nearby bamboo grove when he walks by Okiku talking on the phone. But she wasn't just talking on the phone, she was booty butt naked talking on the phone. But more importantly, who was she talking on the phone with? Okiku is a op too. Hey, but I ain't gonna lie, she would've got me, and Ninja wasn't making it no better cause he was straight instigating. Come on now, confess. You wanna hit that booty.
I like white girls more better.
And as soon as he got the chance, that's exactly what he did. And obviously I can't show this on YouTube, but he was laying it down.
What did he say?
Matter of fact, she was gonna try to assassinate him mid-sesh, but let's just say she couldn't perform under pressure. So after their sesh, we find Okiku in the attic transmitting some information over to the ops, but she immediately felt guilty about it, so she destroyed the device. But now it's too late because Afro caught her in the act, and during her apology, we actually find out that she's the girl with the teddy bear from Afro's childhood, Otsuru. But before they can reminisce on old times, the ops pull up, stab her in the back, take the data chip from the phone, and exit the premises. Oh, and they also burn the house down. So after his favorite Snowbunny was murdered, Afro had no choice but to continue his journey as he walks away into the night.
When I die, I'ma go to Snowbunny heaven. Snow.
So as Afro's continuing on with this journey up the mountain, we cut to the secret villain lair of the group that's been following him the entire time, also known as the Empty Seven Clan. Now their ultimate goal is to get the #1 headband, but in order to do that, you have to get through #2, which is why they've been monitoring and stealing data from Afro. Because since they couldn't find anybody to kill him, they decided to make somebody to kill him. And what might that creation be, you ask? No other than Afro himself. That's right, they created a robot Afro with the data they got from his memories and his sword skills to take him out. And it wouldn't take long to see what it could do, because the clone intercepted Afro at a bridge, and you could cut the tension with a knife. Them boys had a brief stare down and went straight to work. And in the beginning, I'm not gonna lie, the raw Afro was getting pieced up. And look at this hornball stroking his beard. Now him and the rest of the Empty Seven Clan are watching these two box it out. And I know they're hoping and praying that Afro don't win, because they've been harassing him for I don't even know how long. But unfortunately for them, they have seemed to greatly underestimate their opponent, because Afro has realized that this robot is copying his moves. So he decides to close his eyes and do some new shit, which eventually leads to him front flipping over this man's head and slicing him in half on the way down. Yeah, I would make that face too, because you're next, buddy.
I don't think so.
They did all that work, blew up an entire bridge, lost their greatest line of defense in the process, and this man still made it across. And once he got rid of all the guards, it was time for the showdown with the Empty Seven Clan. And I thought he was gonna fight with #3 first, but he just walked past him. So, yeah. So his first official fight is with #6, the RPG wielding bandit, and that fight did not last very long. But before he died, he sacrificed himself to give numbers 4 and 5 a chance at a surprise attack, and that didn't last very long either. Next up is #2. Never mind. So as he moves on to the next room, he's intercepted by Robo Afro again, who's come back for round 2. And this time he's actually acting like a robot. So they both go at it again as Afro's dodging detached robot arms and laser beams. And once Afro finally gets a hold of him, he starts bonking the top of his head. And Robo Afro's had enough.
Really, nigga?
So he just takes Afro and blasts him into the air. And now these niggas are boxing in the sky. And on the way down, Afro stabs his sword into the robot and uses it as a landing pad. And when you thought it was over, it's not, because the robot pulls out a cannon out of his chest and starts charging up his solar beam, but before it can get his blast off, a sword comes down from the hole in the roof, stabs it, and causes it to blast upward towards the sky.
No.
Oh my goodness, Valentine!
And with this final shot hitting absolutely nothing, the robot is finally defeated. And now Afro and Ninja enter this creepy elevator so they can go further up the mountain. And while they're on the elevator, #1 drops on top of it and starts shooting into it. But by the time they got to the top, he was dead. So now they're walking over another crossing where they're faced with yet another opponent. But this time, their opponent looks familiar, or at least part of it does.
Who is that?
That's Gene now.
Because standing in front of them was a man wearing the head of Otsuru's childhood bear. I know bro's hot in there, but in between his heavy ass breathing, he says,
Long time no see, Afro Samurai.
So after literally no reaction from Afro, the bear charges at him. And I'm like, oh yeah, they about to duke it out.
Nope.
This man Afro runs away, but the bear continues to hawk him down. And it doesn't even seem like Afro wants to fight, because he's letting the bear piece him up. And right before the bear hits him with a finishing blow, we get another flashback. This time around, Afro's still living with the kids from the dojo, but he's a little bit older now. But one thing has not changed. This man is still looking for the number 2 headband, which leads him to fighting 3 guys who are also looking for it. And while they were fighting, Gino steps in to help Afro defeat them. And as they're finishing off the last guy, Afro asks him where the number 2 is. And he says that the number 2 is quite near. Interesting. So after the fight, Gino and Afro have a talk. Gino tells Afro to stop trying to avenge his father and live his own life, and that him, Otsuru, and the other kids from the dojo are his family now. And speaking of the dojo kids, they're all bonding as they sit down and watch the fireworks light up the night sky, as they talk about the love they have for their master and how strong he is. We then fast forward to when Gino, Afro, and Otsuru are selling vegetables to a local vendor, and that vendor asks them if their master is okay, and that he's been acting strangely lately. He then goes on to say that a local dojo master is actually the owner of the number 2 headband, and that he's been brainwashing his students to be his guard dogs. Hearing this news makes Gino tweak out as he begins to defend his master's name, but Afro on the other hand seems to be realizing something that he never hopes to be true. Now we fast forward a few days later to graduation night, where Afro, Gino, and a few other students are graduating from their master's dojo, and at the end of their ceremony, Afro asks his master one final question. Are you really number 2? And do you know what his master's response was? Meet me outside. Say less! So they meet outside by this big ass tree where his master reveals that he is indeed the owner of the number 2 headband. Now Gino, Otsuru, and some of the other kids from the dojo are in attendance to this as well. And in front of all of his students, he gives Afro one more chance to back out. He tells him the life of the number 2 is not for everybody. You won't have love, you won't have friends, you won't have joy. It's just straight hands every day. But before they can even run their ones, 20 plus individuals come over a hill looking for the number 2. So their master just runs over there and fights them by himself. And he's holding his own, but he's still getting pieced up in the process. So the kids from the dojo jump in too. And they were not ready. Every single one of them got sliced to pieces. Otsuru, cooked. This random ass nigga named Sasuke, cooked. Gino, cooked. And after the battle was said and done, all that was left standing was Afro and his master. And when Afro charges at him, his master closes his eyes and accepts his fate. And now Afro stands there after murdering his master with the number 2 headband finally in his possession. And then Gino, with all the strength he has left, stands up and yells at Afro, "How could you? How could you betray our master?"
Why you on my dick?
Huh?
And now thinking he has nothing left to live for, Gino walks himself backwards off the side of a cliff into the ocean below. And now we cut back to present day, where the bear and Afro are once again standing face to face as the bear's helmet falls off and he reveals himself to be, nigga, is that Metal Frieza? Oh no, it's just Gino with a grade 5 concussion and a lifetime's worth of CTE. So the two of them square off once again as Afro finally recognizes Gino, and 2 former childhood friends prepare to fight each other to the death. So Gino charges first as he goes on the offensive, slicing and parrying Afro at every angle. And he's giving this man the work as he shoulder takes him through a couple of boulders. But somehow this man is still standing after this. And at this point in the fight, Afro is still on the defensive. I'm starting to think this man has some type of weird kink where he likes to get his ass beat before he pops off. But it also could be because he didn't want to fight his childhood bestie. But who really knows? Anyways, so Gino charges at Afro again as they trade blows and sword strikes. And he's slicing Afro up, but in the midst of his barrage, Afro critically damages Gino's life support circuit in the side of his head. So with both of them critically injured, they both set up for one final strike. And as they charge at each other for the last time, Afro changes his stance at the last second and cuts Gino in half. And with the defeat of his childhood best friend, Afro continues his journey to the final battle. And after walking through this creepy ass hallway, he finally comes face to face with the human testicle that killed his father, who also goes by the name Justice. And the moment he saw Afro again, he immediately started talking shit. But it kind of made me uncomfortable, because he started talking about how soft Afro and his daddy's insides are on some Orochimaru shit. But before you had a chance to understand the roast, this man ups the toolie and shoots Afro in the shoulder. And while Buddy's still standing there 10 toes, Justice reveals something that made me realize he's more of a sick individual than I thought. He tells Afro that there's been more than 2 headbands this whole time. So he went ahead and killed all of their owners and collected them for himself. And now that Afro's come to presented him with the number 2, he can finally complete his collection and become a god. But Afro's heard enough. He pulls out his sword and charges straight towards him while dodging bullets in the process. And he gets right in this man's grill and manages to cut both of his arms off. But then Justice reveals a third arm and sword from the back of his neck and slashes down at Afro. But in that split second, Afro realizes that this is exactly how his father died, because he was never expecting a third arm, but Afro did. So he weaves that attack and slices Justice in the neck, damn near decapitating him. But then Justice whips his head back on his neck, reattaching it, and then he regenerates some weird tubes from his arms, stabs him into the ground, which come back up through the ground and stabs Afro in the head. And I was like, ain't this show called Afro Samurai? There's no way he goes out like that. But suddenly Afro wakes up, backflips off the spear, jumps down, and slices Justice into multiple pieces, finally defeating him and gaining the number 1 headband. We then fast forward many years later, where Afro is now standing where his father once was, on the top of that mountain, as he now dons the number 1 headband, and a new opponent has come to challenge him. Damn, he got all the headbands. Who is this? Damn, again? How is he still alive? And he hits him with that same corny ass line.
We meet again, Afro Samurai.
As Afro pulls out his sword to prepare to fight Gino once more, and the story ends. Man, this is one of the colder, shorter animes I've seen. The way they fit storytelling, action, and emotion in the 5 episodes is pretty impressive if you ask me. So please go check out Afro Samurai when you get a chance. It's pretty goated. And also let me know down in the comments below what y'all want to see next. And if you have made it to this point in the video, I appreciate you guys for watching. If you could, please like, comment, and subscribe. It's your boy Atlas, and I'm gonna catch you next time.